My Lords, may I start by saying that I'm grateful to the Minister for arranging a briefing with officials so that I could better understand this complex proposal, and the briefing was indeed very helpful and I learned a very great deal. I find this a rather troubling statutory instrument, not because I have any objection to the use of SAF by aircraft in their engines, but indeed I welcome that as far as it goes. But rather to the mechanism chosen. I mean, we are still meant to be a free market country, and the normal means of market operation in this country would be that where there is a demand for something, and a supply would be forthcoming. Now, we are told, despite the fact that SAF is estimated to cost between 3 times and 7 times, I believe, as much as a standard kerosene-based fuel, we are told that there is a genuine and strong demand for it from airlines, not because they enjoy paying more for their fuel necessarily, but because from their own reputational point of view, they wish to do as much as they can to decarbonise the operation of their fleets. And SAF, as I think the Noble Baroness Lady Randerson pointed out, is the principal technique available to them for doing that at the moment. So the demand undoubtedly exists. Why is the supply, therefore, not forthcoming? Why is it that they would have to go off somewhere else to buy their SAF, which is the implication of what their position is, when the demand exists here and we are the home to some major suppliers? Nobody seemed really to have explained this. But we've decided, despite the fact that we allegedly operate a market economy, that the government is going to intervene in all of this so as to mandate the supply of this fuel. And the means of mandating it is indeed through this instrument, through the mandate. And the mandate will not only oblige it to be produced, but oblige it to be produced and sold in certain quantities, and those quantities will increase every year. And that is to address only the sort of standard available type of SAF, which is the heifer type SAF that the Noble Lord the Minister referred to earlier. There are other more exotic means of producing SAF not yet available, some of them perhaps even undreamt of. And they will be subject to a separate mandate, so that to fulfill the mandate it will be obligatory to produce some SAF by these alternative methods. And that graph continues to grow over a period as illustrated in the table on page 7, I think it is, of the statutory instrument. So why can't this be done by the market? That's really what I would like to know. Why is it not only that we have to mandate the production, though we're not actually mandating the purchase, as I understand it, we mandate the production of SAF, but to do so, we are also, and the Noble Lord the Minister did refer to this, we're also going to do so by giving a guaranteed price to the suppliers and a guaranteed return to the investors. Now, I had understood, as a consequence of the briefing, that the guaranteed return was incorporated in this instrument, though I may have got that wrong. That may have been an assumption on my part. I don't mean to criticise officials when I say that, because as I understood the Noble Lord, he seemed to say that there would be separate legislation brought forward to provide the guaranteed return to investors. And if that is so, then perhaps these comments refer more to that separate legislation. My ensuing comments refer more to that separate legislation. But for the moment, I'll take it all as one package, one instrument and one package. And I ask myself the question, why would you have private investors who need and deserve a guaranteed return? And since that guarantee will effectively be UK government guarantee, why would the investors be deserving of a return that was greater than gilts? And yet when I asked in the briefing the question whether it would be greater than gilts, I was told it would be, though the amount at this stage has not been settled. It seems to me that the investors are the group driving, in a sense, the complexity of the market intervention required by this instrument. And as I say, I find this troubling to some extent. And indeed, for how long will those prices be guaranteed and that return guaranteed? These are questions I would very much like to know the answer to, if they're at least, if the Minister can't answer them because, due to my own fault, they are of understanding, they are not part of this instrument, then I'll understand that because I will have made a mistake. But it seems to me that they are absolutely crucial things for us to know. They go, to a sense, to the heart of the distortion we are introducing into our own markets. And it's a small microcosm of the way in which the state is taking over increasingly our industrial sector. Everyone is, and of course a lot of this is being done at the collusion and at the welcome of the industrial sector. I mean, who wouldn't welcome guaranteed production prices? Who wouldn't welcome guaranteed returns? I completely understand that. But it isn't actually the heart of a beating competitive capitalism that is of the sort that produces a competitive, growing and increasingly productive economy. So it does trouble me that we're in this position. I would like to know the answers to some questions. I second the questions asked by the noble Baroness Lady Randerson and by the noble Viscount, my noble friend Lord Trefgarne. But I have my own questions to add to them. What is the cost implication for airlines of this mandate? Has an assessment been made of that? What are the cost implications for the passenger of this mandate as it increases? Not in its first year necessarily, where it'll hardly be noticed. A very small admixture of SAF to the kerosene-based fuel is unlikely to be noticed in the first year. But of course the mandate is very demanding as it stretches out over future years, and not very many future years. It ramps up really quite dramatically. Could I ask, as I say, what impact then this is likely to have on passenger numbers? The airline industry is forecasting a fall in passenger numbers, quite significant fall in passenger numbers as a result of decarbonisation. One may dispute whether those numbers are an excessive estimate. They may be putting too high a figure on it. But it's hard not to believe that there isn't going to be some fall in numbers as a result of this sort of measure. And has the department made an estimate of that? And can the Minister tell us how many people are going to find they're simply priced out of their holidays? Ordinary working people, if I may call them that, are priced out of their holidays as a result of this measure and measures like it. And finally, as I say, I would very much like to know, it may not be available at the moment, what return is going to be offered to investors, how much above gilt it is likely to be, and what the justification for a risk-free return is that is greater than the return that could be achieved on government bonds. Now, I make that last point, I'll be very brief in wrapping up, I make that last point not as a point that has anything whatsoever to do with climate change. It's a point about Treasury orthodoxy. Only 30 years ago, Treasury orthodoxy was that if the government wanted to undertake a project, it should finance it either through taxes or through borrowing. And if through borrowing, the reason for that was that the government was always the cheapest borrower, always the most favourable borrower in the market, and could borrow more cheaply than the private sector. Why is it that we have determined that we are going to outsource this funding requirement when admittedly we know it is going to cost us more than it would if the government were to do it itself?